Today, there seems to be an underlying assumption that chivalry is all about men in armor, riding around questing, jousting, and conquering, while the women sit helplessly in their towers and castles with nothing to do but sigh and swoon.
Well, this is essentially the paradox. Women have been the largest social movers, the epitome of social standards. However, even with these seemingly powerful roles, women were essentially trapped in these conventions, and therefore become the stereotypical depiction of the woman who does nothing but sigh and swoon for her knightly love. Of course, there have been modifications to this structure throughout centuries, but essentially this structure remains the same.
The greatest portrayal of such a chivalric structure is retold in the tales of King Arthur in Camelot. The tales retell the story of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere's marriage and the appearance of a valorous knight called Lancelot. Swearing fealty to his king, Lancelot became the best knight fighting under Camelot's banners. This also caught the attention of Guinevere. The two became involved in an adulterous and treasonous relationship against the husband and the king.
The conventions of the time, those of chivalry, allowed seemingly adulterous relationships to occur. Chivalry was the aristocratic profession of fealty to one's lord, and it was also a guideline for courteous behavior for a knight. Aside from swearing fealty to his lord, the knight also pledged himself to a lady. This was known as courtly love.
Courtly love was yet another way to motivate the knight to go to war and fight. As he fought valiantly, he would gather favors from his lady that he was representing in battle, and these tokens would proclaim to others that he was a powerful and gallant knight.
The lady gave him tokens of her sponsorship, such as a handkerchief of her colors or some other token of her love. And he also swore himself to her just as if she were his lord. He called her Midons, which basically means his lord. This courtly love was just like a gender reversal in which the usually dominant male, the dominant one in the power structure, assumed the female role, and the female, usually the inferior one in this power structure, assumed the masculine role of the lord. So in that way, the knight basically supplicated himself in this feminine position of inferiority, and right underneath her, while he placed her on this pedestal, which under this position he basically cried and fainted and made little protestations to gain her love, and placed her on this pedestal of worship while focusing on these beautiful fetishized features of her beautiful neck of symmetry, her elevated brow, her dainty feet. Just a beautiful body just out of his reach, and how he wanted it.
If any mention was made of Queen Guinevere, it was to regale her beauty.
These beautiful features signified a virtuous nature. A woman with great beauty was worshipped not only for her appearance, but for her virtues. The greatest female virtue, of course, was chastity, and even in that case, a woman's virginity was referred to as a woman's virtue.
Such virtue was expected from Guinevere. As the Queen of Camelot, she represented the kingdom and served as an ideal of the feminine role.
As a married woman, her virtue consisted of purity from adulterous affairs. She had to be true to her marriage bed, basically. Courtly love was socially accepted because it allowed a woman to be involved in a non-sexual, elevated kind of love with another man, in plain view of her husband even, because it was non-sexual. So courtly love was not about sexual consummation, but it was in fact about sexual purity, ironically. It's ironic because it was motivated by sexuality. While this knight kept pushing himself towards this lady, requesting her love and crying and protesting all the time, it was her righteous duty by feminine virtue to reject his advances. But of course, as we know, not everything works in the ideal sense.